Did the Russian military know all along about the Kursk incursion? Why didn't they do anything to stop it? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's talk about this, one of the strangest stories of the entire incursion. Okay, so this is according to documents obtained by The Guardian. The Russian army knew that the Ukrainian incursion into Kursk was occurring months in advance. So, what exactly? How do we know that they knew? Well, the answer is literally the documents warning about a Ukrainian military operation in Kursk were found in an abandoned headquarters in Kursk. That's right. So the Ukrainian troops, right, entered in August 6th, but as of at least June, and some as early as January, discuss, quote, the potential for a breakthrough at the state border. This is documents done by some of the border guards and in Kursk. So a document from February predicted a rapid push to the Sumy region into Russian territory up to 50 miles deep. Again, almost exactly what occurred. Another warning from mid-June said that the Ukrainian army aimed to capture Sudzha and disrupt Russian supply lines, targeting key bridges over the Sime. The Russians, their insider sources, or SIGINT, or whatever they're using to get this data, seem to be spot on. Those guys should get a pat on the back, but in all likelihood, it seems like they were ignored and so probably got sent to the gulag. Now, The Guardian got these documents, select documents from Russia's Interior Ministry, their Federal Security Service, their FSB, right? That's the Russian equivalent of their FBI, as well as military units found in abandoned buildings in the Kursk region. And again, they know that there's no independent way to verify these documents, right? The Russian military, certainly the Russian FBI is never going to acknowledge, yeah, those are official FSB documents. The Guardian says they contain standard Russian military language, including, quote, dry, meandering official language, which actually, when we've read other Russian military publications, we actually find that this is kind of their MO. The U.S. military prides itself on having a very succinct, clear style, whereas Russian military documents seem to be written more in like legalese, like pointlessly convoluted. Again, they also were found with handwritten logs documenting events and concerns at other specific position. Specifically, they identify some of the documents as written by the 17th Battalion, the 488th Motorized Rifle Regiment. So what exactly did this mean for the Russian troops? Well, it means a couple of things. First, it means that they knew, or should have known reasonably, that Kursk was going to be the site of an incursion. And if you know they're going for Sudzha, what are the things that they should have done? Well, before we talk about what Russia should have done versus what they did, I want to mention that if you feel like you're going to have to lock in and get things done, you don't have to be like the Russians and just sit on your couch and do nothing. Instead, maybe you need a secret weapon. Well, maybe that secret weapon is more caffeine. That's why I created Strike Gum. Strike Gum has all the caffeine of the leading energy drinks, like a Red Bull or an Amp Energy, but zero sugar. With 90 milligrams of caffeine and 100 milligrams of alpha GPC in each individual piece, this one pack contains the equivalent of 5 energy drinks. So if you're somebody who's tired of carting around an overpriced Red Bull or an overpriced Monster, well, here's your solution, right? Strike Gum. You can go to strikegum.com now. Get free shipping on orders over $40 as long as you're in the domestic US. And of course, if you do the subscribe and save option, you get some savings on that order. Plus, again, you're going to get that free shipping. So check it out. Again, I recommend the 5-pack simply because that's the best way to try it out, right? And it's going to give you a pack for your house, a pack for your office, gym bag, glove box. So wherever you need that burst of energy, you can get it at Strike Gum, right? There's a reason we have 4.9 stars on Amazon, and up to 50% of the people who order Strike Gum reorder it again. So go to strikegum.com and join the energy drink alternative movement. Link is in the description. Okay, so here's what I thought was most interesting, and that is that the Russian military correctly identified what was happening. And in fact, in some cases, they appear to have identified exactly what was deficient. right? One of the documents noted Russian military units stationed along the border were staffed only to 70% of their intended end strength and were primarily staffed by poorly trained conscripts as of June. Russian authorities don't appear to have done anything, but local military commanders repeatedly ordered the additional training exercises for Russian military personnel in the Kursk Oblast, construction of additional fortifications, and preparation of decoy trenches and military equipment to prepare for the future incursion. But it seems like none of them happened. And that is one of the strangest things, right? And so this raises a lot of very strange questions about the Russian military. Now, we've talked a lot about the fact that the Russian military command structure is a lot looser than the United States military and our NATO allies, right? They tend to be very highly centralized. The individual assault units seem to have minimal training. And because of the high casualty rate, there's really not a lot of on-the-ground leadership, right? The on-the-ground leadership has literally a life expectancy measured in hours. So the result is often, I think, that the orders and statements and directions given by commanders, it's not clear that they will filter down to anyone and that there's anyone there to receive them. Again, the person they could have sent that order to with the high casualty rate may not even be alive or intact to execute on that order. But again, when you also have 60 to 70% of your end strength, you literally may have to simply make priorities. You say, yes, you should be able to man your positions and still have other people dig trenches, but when you only have half strength, you have to choose one or the other. And oftentimes you have to make the immediate problem. You have to solve the problem in front of you. You also have the issue, as they point out, that conscripts are not motivated. So again, as someone who served in a volunteer military, right, the U.S. military, I don't really understand the demotivation. The unmotivated soldiers will approach tasks in kind of a lackadaisical way. They may show up late. They may kind of slip off and try to sham out of work. But refusing orders is just not something we see. Literally, when I did have a soldier refuse orders, it happened to me early in my tour in Afghanistan. It was such a bizarre turn of events to have a soldier truly be like, I will not put on my gear. I will not climb into that vehicle. I will not leave the fob. Was like, am I going to detain you? I actually called my commander. I was like, do you want me to arrest him for refusing an order? I literally came up to him and was like, I am giving you a lawful order in front of witnesses to put on your combat gear and go on a patrol. And he was like, no. And so we had to sit there and we all sort of looked at each other because I was like, listen, am I really going to arrest my own soldier? And I got to take another soldier off this patrol to guard him. So ultimately, I was like, listen, I took 2 soldiers from the headquarters. They just removed his weapon, removed his gear, sat him in a room somewhere. He wasn't arrested per se. But then my commander had to call his battalion commander and say, hey, I've got this situation. That's how bizarre it is to refuse orders. In contrast, it seems like in the Russian military, refusing orders is something that it appears that I would say almost 10% of soldiers do on some level. If not combat missions, then orders to recite things, orders to, again, dig additional trench positions. We've just seen the Russian military just doesn't seem to have the kind of motivation and commitment to go even the minimum distance. We see that their fighting positions are oftentimes crudely constructed, strewn with trash. They appear to build kind of minimum trench positions, and then don't really improve them, right? We've seen, in contrast, Ukrainian trench positions that have been dug, when they're static for a long time. The Ukrainians are always sort of improving those positions. So the trenches get deeper, the firing positions get more fortified. We've even seen in some instances, Ukrainian forces will bring up actual concrete bunkers, bury them in the ground in order to further reinforce their positions. So this is a really strange set of circumstances to see the level of disconnect between local Russian commanders and their soldiers. And again, you could see why the U.S. military, again, why we have such an emphasis on those on-the-ground leaders. Because ultimately, it didn't matter that local commanders in Kursk called called Ukraine out for this assault into Kursk, it didn't matter that they correctly identified almost to the town where it was going to happen, because their soldiers simply lacked the leadership or ability to do anything about it. And that, I think, is going to definitely cause some heads to roll over in the Kremlin. Anyway, guys, that's all I had. Huge thank you to our Colonel tier members like Bill Collier, Robert Colburn, Gaius Marning, Eugenia Cuesta, Chris Gorsuch, Franz Karius, AL9G, and Petcha Tororu, as well as all of our Lieutenant tier members. I could not do this without you guys. I appreciate you so much, and I will see you all in the next one. Cheers.